Re'eh. And the first verse begins with Re'eh, the word of the name of the Parsha. Re'eh, see, Anochi noten lifnechem hayom bracha uklala. Firstly, there is no Zohar in this week's Parsha. No Zohar. Other than which we might accumulate and gather from different sections of the Zohar, but specifically on this Parsha, it's been omitted, as in Parshat Dvarim there is no Zohar. Meaning, the Zohar does not have a section by which it makes an attempt to explain away what is included in this Parsha. For what is stranger is the fact that in translating this particular verse, which says specifically the A, for those of you who know Hebrew, the word that the A means see. There's no denying what that word means. And if you look at the English translation, it says, "Behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse." Nowhere in all of the English translations, and for that matter, translations of other commentators, is the word Re'eh indicated. See. What do you mean by see? As the translation states, I set before you, behold. Re'eh means behold. It just doesn't fit in with the text. The idea of seeing is not included. Furthermore, it says, or seemingly, that God is making a statement and saying that I give before you today a bracha and klala, which are singular, instead of saying brachot and klalot, because as the text will indicate, that we're dealing with the idea almost similar as we did in the previous Parsha. We're dealing with the blessings, and we're dealing with the curses. If you listen, et bracha asher tishma'u el misvot Hashem Elokechem. If you listen to the commandments, then you will have bracha. Is it just one bracha? For doing all of the commandments, you only get one bracha? Obviously, the text should have said brachot in the plural, as well as uklala. In other words, depending. If you do not listen to the mitzvot, and in fact the next two verses indicate that we're talking about the precepts, mitzvot Adonai, the commandments of God, and certainly if you do more than one mitzvah, then you should. And the text certainly doesn't deny that if you do two mitzvot, you will get two brachot, and yet the entire parsha begins off with bracha uklala. And on the surface, again, since there is no Zohar, Rashi does not seem to indicate what the verse might mean here, and therefore it's a complete mystery, and maybe that's why the word re'eh is omitted. It's a mystery. What does the verse intend with in this beginning of the parsha? And then we'll discuss some of the aspects of what is mentioned here. But it's almost as if we have Parshat Re'eh repeated over again, stating particular laws. Yes, here you have the laws of which animals and which birds can be eaten, which not. About blood, that we're not permitted to eat blood, and so on. It goes into some of the details. But that is the extent of this parsha, except one parsha that deals with two aspects, and that is the prophet or the dreamer, and how we can tell who is a true prophet, who is a true dreamer, etc. But I think the first word, which, as I said, has been neglected in the translation, I think kind of provides us with the whole clue. Re'eh is 206. With the kolel, and kolel means it's another method by which we unravel the codes of the Torah, the method of numerology, as with the physicist, provides us with. You saw the voice. They saw the voice. Well, that. No, they saw the words. That was another message, the opposite. But how do you see the word? No, remember I always say, tell you the story about this Kabbalist who was drinking tea, remember? And he had the sugar in his hand. Oh, too sweet. Breaks off the cube. Now he has a half a cube. Just right. Because we have lost touch with the Etz HaChaim, where things have become so fragmented, like the eyes can only see, and then the tongue can only taste, the hands can only feel, but yet we know, open up your eyes, don't you see what's going on around you? Since I woke up this morning, I haven't closed my eyes. What are you telling me? Wake up and look what's going on. I mean, who doesn't see? Or, don't you feel me? I can feel things. What do you mean I don't feel you? Oh, okay, yeah, I feel you now. But you know that's not what we're talking about. We've lost the concept of Etz HaChaim. We've lost the concept of Etz HaChaim. Etz HaChaim doesn't have this fragmentation. The finger should be able to taste. The eye should be able to smell. Have a good day. It must be treated as something of in the nature of a code. In other words, that on the surface, there is very little that we can understand of this parsha if we are to treat the parsha in a literal way. So, therefore, the first word already indicates to us that there are secrets that will emerge from this parsha, secrets that unlock the code, of the whole Torah. All right, so we're dealing here with a secret. And when it says bracha uklala, let me also mention that in the fourth verse, after it already states that the bracha, the blessing, and the curse depends upon whether you observe the mitzvot or you don't observe the mitzvot. So we are led to understand on a very superficial and merely transliteral interpretation. And then when we go on to the fourth verse, it says there that when you come to the land of Israel, he will give bracha al har Gerizim, v'taklala al har Eval. He will give a blessing on Mount Gerizim, the name of one mount, and on the other mount, which is called Har Eval, he gave the curses. And what was the purpose of establishing these blessings? Because there were half the tribes, as it is explained in other sections of the Torah, half the tribes, 6 tribes stood on one mountain, the other 6 tribes stood on the other mountain, and when God was discussing the blessings, the ones on Har Gerizim would say Amen, and the ones standing on Har Eval, when the curses were mentioned, they would say Amen. And this is the scenario which was taking place. And the obvious question, which has not been addressed, is why do we need the blessings to be proclaimed on these 2 mounts? And all of the tribes agree and answer Amen. And what happens if they didn't respond to the blessing? If they didn't say Amen? We're discussing here that when one does the mitzvah, he receives blessings. If one does not observe the mitzvot, another point that should be mentioned, it does not say if you will do the brachot, or you will do the mitzvot, or you shall not do the mitzvot. It doesn't say about, it doesn't, the verse does not discuss action. It says, Im lo tishma'u, if you shall not listen to the mitzvot. Well, what's wrong if you don't listen? I mean, well, what it means, and this is the difficulty that some commentators have on this verse, is, well, if you don't listen, then of course you can't do. If you listen, well, what does it mean then? You do. If you don't listen, you don't do. Many commentators ask that the appropriate. I have to tell you, I'm making this up as I go along. I asked in fact, you would get me last year's tape when try to remember what I said last year, because I don't remember what I said last year. There was some taping going on here last night. What happened? And just last night,
anything happened to me? The machine didn't work.
Machine didn't work.
Didn't work.
It's a brand new machine. Okay. So repeating again that the verse should not be concerned so much as whether we listen or we do not pay attention, but rather whether we perform or we do not perform these mitzvot. And why is it so essential that the verse said the curses come if you do not listen? Not listen. Well, what seems to become obvious in right here in this beginning, in this opening section, is the idea that what is action? What is considered action? Referring to the idea as to why the verse doesn't say, and if you do not do, or you do. If you perform the mitzvot, you get bracha. You have blessings. If you do not perform the mitzvot, then chas v'sholom, there's going to be curses. Another idea that I just realized that if you do not do, first of all, it could have said, then do not expect blessings in return. In other words, if you're looking for blessings, then you've got to listen. If you don't listen, then there are no brachot. No. If you don't listen, then there is klalat, there's curse. It's a positive negative, rather than the absence of a blessing by not listening. It does not say that the individual had performed a negative deed, and actually the rest of the Torah, when it says you shall be cursed, it means that you go out, you steal, you murder, etc. And then, therefore, the consequence of your action, the reaction of your action, is that something will strike you in a negative way. In return for your action, for your negative activity, there is a negative response, which otherwise is known as punishment. But again, the verse does not indicate that kind of response, but rather that the curse comes if you do not listen. If you do not listen. And since I had mentioned that the first word reveals for us the depth of what this parsha, which is to teach us, I think again is teaching us what slowly but surely we are discovering in 20th century physics beginning, and those concepts which 20th century physics ceases and cannot go beyond. And here is where the Torah picks up. Again, we raise a question, Tishma'u. If you listen to the mitzvah, to the commandments of God, and then you have blessings. If you listen, just merely listening. What I think, and as I said, I've been looking for some interpretation, but I could not find any, other than we have to resort to this idea of Re'eh, of seeing. That the Torah here is revealing for us that in essence, there is nothing but consciousness. There is nothing but consciousness. Even 20th century physics, while it leans towards the idea that physicality, as we even discussed last week, physicality is an unreal aspect of this world, unreal. But how many of us can truly come to believe that, this table is is no different than the atoms here, except that this table brings together the atoms, and therefore it's the merging of atoms, one within each other, that we have a table. But it's not the wood, if it's a wooden table or a steel table. But essentially, there is no difference between them. No difference. One, if it's a steel table, there are some people who can bend a steel table, meaning because you can't change atoms. You can replace, displace, move atoms around, solidify atoms, and make it and turn it into a table. So the atoms is the force that we understand in this universe, and this has been accepted in all principles of physics. That atoms is the only energy force that is a reality in this universe. Nothing else. Wood, you can destroy wood, but you can't destroy atoms. Burn a table if it's a wooden table. Or, as we learned in last week's Parsha, the clothing of the Jews for 40 years did not wear out. What does that mean? The atoms were destroyed, or the atoms were set into another motion? No. The atoms are the same, except the physical nature of cloth is what we interpret to mean as atoms brought together in the form of something that we refer to as clothing. And over a period of time, it wears out. Well, what wears out? The atoms wear out? Or does the material that brings to a realization, or that brings together atoms into a texture, into something that, if there were no atoms, and my hand flowed through the air, the atoms surrounding this hand would not conceal the hand. However, if I had a glove made of material, this glove would conceal my hand. You no longer could observe the hand because it's now concealed by a piece of cloth. This piece of cloth brings together the atoms, and now, not the cloth, but it is the atoms which comprise of 99% of this cloth, now can act as a concealment for the hand. Now the cloth acts as a concealment to the hand. This cloth, we are told, the clothing of the Jews never wore out. 40 years wearing the same suit of clothes or shirt or whatever, did not wear out. Why didn't it wear out? Because wearing out or not wearing out is not the idea that the clothing disappear, rather than the physical entity that brings together the atoms to act as a glove, and it's the atoms that act as a glove, the atoms that act as the concealment. In other words, at the same time that these atoms here do not act as a concealment, and I'm going through more atoms than I do when I put on a glove, somehow the atoms in midair, not being brought together by something of a physical nature. If I took this tablecloth and did this, now you no longer can see my hand. And yet, this is made up essentially only of atoms, this cloth. But this 1% or 1/10 of 1% has the unique capacity or ability to reveal the atom. The same atom that's here now becomes something of a physical nature. The atom is transformed into a piece of cloth. The same atoms that exist here exist over here. And therefore, what did not disintegrate, or which did not disappear in the wilderness for 40 years, was this capacity, this physical capacity of cloth to assemble and bring together atoms now to act as a force. Whereas here, obviously, the atoms have no ability to prevent or to address the hand. Only when it is contained in this 1/10 of 1%, something that is referred to as cloth. And here, when the Torah is discussing the bracha, and it says, if you listen, not if you do, but if you listen, then you have bracha, then you have blessings. And what that means is quite obvious what blessings imply. All depending if you listen. It doesn't even say if you see. If you listen. Not if you see. Not if you do. Not if you do the mitzvot. Not if you, as the verse tells us, one of the precepts is giving charity. Giving charity. If you listen. And the Ari has a long discourse on tzedakah, on charity. And what the Ari goes into is not so much the aspect of the giving, but more importantly is and I'll mention, we'll go through this for a moment to understand, which I think then provides us with some insight into the message of the Torah, and that is that the actual giving, the doing, like this piece of cloth, is secondary. It is not the action, but it is the understanding. Because if you learned a little Kabbalah, again, this is why this particular section does not have a Zohar, because on the surface we cannot understand what's stated, and if the Zohar would be getting into 20th century physics, then of course 3,300 years ago nobody would know what the Zohar was referring to, because the Zohar mentioned the concepts that we have learned only in the last 70, 80 years, then no one would understand the implication of what the Torah is trying to teach us here. So it says the word tishma'u, to hear, and we know that hearing means the sfira of Binah. This is the way we have to, this is the methodology. And Binah means intelligence, understanding, not seeing. Although seeing, we might say, is chachma on a higher level. But if we were only referring to chachma, to wisdom, or seeing, if we all saw something, if we were on the level of all seeing, observing something, we all came to the same conclusion, well, then we might say that we were standing on Mount Sinai and we all saw reality. But unfortunately, when we observe something, and if there are 1,000 people observing a particular event, we probably would have 2,000 opinions as to what we had seen, because we're not sure. We thought we saw this, or we think we saw that, and others say they saw something else. Therefore, the verse, first of all, begins by demonstrating. That's why the verse begins with Re'eh, to see. Not to see, because only one verse later, in its interpretation of blessings and curses, it's talking about listening, not about seeing. The first verse mentions the word seeing, and there again, the word see is the word for mystery. To tell us that what we understand of reality is what reality is. If one understands that there is pain, understand, you feel pain. You feel pain. Says the Torah. No. There is no such thing as feeling pain. What do you mean? If someone has pain, he feels pain. Says the Torah, the only reason you feel pain is because you understand you have pain. It's a very deep concept. Although it's supported by all of the rules of 20th century physics. They don't understand what they're talking about. I mean, if Einstein received a blow over his arm and he felt pain, he would say, I feel pain. Say, well, Einstein, he just got through teaching that what you understand exists is what exists. What you do not understand does not exist. So, all you have to do is say, well, I understand I don't have pain. I don't feel pain. And it should have not existed, not gone away, but not exist. Well, that is still the conflict between theory and practice. If we undergo any kind of pain in life, there are two people who can experience the same event. If one is a Kabbalist and he's lost all his money, how does he feel? Just what a wonderful event. One who is not a Kabbalist says, what tragedy has befallen me? Both undergo the same event. The Kabbalist has pain, diagnosed that this condition should create pain, and he says, how wonderful. The other feels the pain, excruciating at times, and he feels the pain. Does the pain exist or doesn't it exist? Says 20th century science that for those who say the pain does not exist, it does not exist. But in practicality, that has never been the conclusion of any physicist. When he underwent pain because of some illness or accident, he felt pain. And yet, along comes the Torah, along comes science, and say that if you decide with your mind, that there is no pain, there is no pain. Because that is the essence of reality. When the Torah is discussing blessing or curse, it was not a question of, as we asked, it should be in, why is it in the singular? It should tell you that you have brachot. Because the Torah is not discussing blessing, and it's not discussing curse. These are the end products. What the Torah is referring to, as it's mentioned in Genesis, that God gave before us two universes, the world of Eitz HaChaim and the world of Eitz HaDat. When you live in the world of Eitz HaDat, the tree of knowledge, there is pain. There is curse. What does curse mean? Misfortune. Misfortune comes in many different packages. When you live in the world of Eitz HaChaim, you have bracha. What kind of brachot? Well, that'll depend. The bracha can take many forms. But as to what form your activity, the action of the individual takes, will depend on which universe this individual lives in. If he lives in the world of Eitz HaChaim, where there is no good and evil, I must tell you that I'm just looking at if Mark is here. No, he's not here this morning. But Mark is supposed to be an excellent masseur, and I wanted him to give me a massage, which he was kind enough to do for me. And I said, "You go all the way." And as he was doing it, I could feel that there could be pain. Oh, he was really coming down and pressing those points. And I was going to play a little game with myself. I just want to share this with you. And I can feel that pressure. And this is after the previous day where he had gone. I thought it was a good massage, because he had gone deep into trying to relax the muscles. I mean, the paradox here, banging away at the bones and so on, and now we're supposed to feel relaxed. I can just imagine, most people from what I understand, when they take a massage, not too difficult, just enough that the individual can bear. But anyway, the second day he did, and I must tell you, all I did as he was giving this massage, and I was totally conscious of the idea that he's giving me a massage. There was no question. Was I said, look, chaos, pain, the action of creating pain belongs to the world of Eitz HaDat. In the world of Eitz HaChaim, there is none. And I would like to be, and that's all I did. I didn't leave as many times we can. We can leave, and sometimes, unfortunately, we do not leave this world in a conscious way. I mean, sometimes we begin to daydream, and we're no longer, we're driving a car down the road for 100 miles, and we're not even aware of the fact that we're in this world, right? We can still drive that car in traffic, weave in and out, and then wake up 100 miles later and say, how did I get here? That happens to all of us. So that's the idea of being unconscious in a conscious world. So that's happened to all of us. But to be conscious that there could be pain, but that one decides, I'm not in this world of, I'm not going to participate in the world that has pain, because I prefer to be in the world of Eitz HaChaim. I prefer to be in that world where there is no chaos, there is no pain. There is another universe where there is no pain. There is no klala, a curse. What is a curse? A curse is chaos. A curse is something that all of us fear and all of us make every effort to prevent from curse entering. We wear a red string. What's the purpose of wearing the red string? So as to keep us away from what? From the world of Eitz Hadat. Nothing more. Nothing more. So as to keep us into, move us into another dimension. That's the purpose of the red string. You imagine this little red string, putting it on, and supposedly it's going to prevent us from chaos. Well, what does it mean it's going to prevent you from chaos? You mean when you're conscious of chaos around you, and you're in the middle of chaos, you feel the chaos, but this is going to stop the chaos from affecting your life. And the answer, according to this Parshat Re'eh, does not prevent one from experiencing the chaos, because there is a red string. But rather, the red string has the ability to place into our consciousness that the chaos around us, the chaos that is affecting us, in essence doesn't exist. And that provides us with an understanding, a total understanding of what this was about. And therefore, it's not a question of plural or singular. The Torah is mentioning here the secret that was established in Genesis 2, when God created Eitz HaChaim and Eitz HaDat. He created two universes that run parallel, one to each other, two tracks. If you decide to run onto one track, that's where you are. You take the express, you're on the express. Do you see the local? Yeah, you see the local train. You bypass the local train because you're on the express. What does the express mean? Well, you don't have to stop. You don't have to pay attention to the stations that you pass. Are you aware of the stations existing? Yes. So the art of moving out of one dimension into another is not that you take yourself out of the dimension, because we live in the world of Eitz Hadat. As the Zohar mentions in many areas throughout the Zohar, as long as this physical body is something that we cling to, that our soul clings to, and our soul must cling to a physical body, because without a physical body, there is no revealment of the internal soul. The fact that there is clothing, yes, we must recognize, and we do recognize. In fact, we have no choice, because as much of an effort that we may place into leaving the dimension of physicality, or that we refer to as the world of Eitz Hadat, ultimately you must come back to it. You've got to eat, you've got to drink. If you don't eat and you don't drink for 2 weeks, the body cannot exist without its sustenance. And therefore, by virtue of no choice, we have to be recognized, and we have to be cognizant that this world exists, and there is no choice in leaving this world as long as this body is functional. Therefore, what this verse is trying to teach us is that to achieve moving on to another track involves the recognition that at the time that you're on this express, you notice all of the local stops along the way. You have to take notice of it. You cannot deny that it exists. As long as you have this physical body, the denial of its existence the denial of its existence will not bring you into a reality of Etz HaChaim. This is a revelation. You've got to be part of the Etz HaDat, but at the same time, it's not two tracks, but actually one track within the other track. All around us, you have the world of Etz HaDat. Concealed within this world of Etz HaDat is another universe. That universe, the world of Etz HaChaim, is a track that which, if you can, a consistency of its presence, while at the same time being aware of the fact that Etz HaDat exists. The pain that you might feel when you take a strong massage is there, but at the same time, you want to remove yourself from this consciousness of pain. We recognize what pain is and move out from that pain and move away from that pain. What do I mean move away? Well, if you're in this internal track, not two parallel tracks, but one within the other, and you decide with your mind that you prefer to be on this track, according to the Torah, is sufficient for us to leave behind. And that's the way it appears when you're on the express. Although both trains are moving, right? But as Einstein said, everything is relative. If you're on the express train and there's a local train that both trains began at the same time and both traveling a parallel course and maybe with the same speed, but what happens as the local approaches the first stop, which the express will not be governed by that stop. It begins to leave the local behind. And you see, as the local approaches the station, this is moving ahead. This is moving backwards. Not backwards, but it is beginning to experience the stops along the way. With this thought in mind, then we might even begin to understand what does it mean between being on one mountain and being on another mountain. Why was there a necessity of this expression being on a mountain? And what would happen if for whatever reason we needed these two camps of the Israelites, 6 tribes on one side, 6 tribes on the other, in a valley? And when the blessings are proclaimed, the Amen was recited as is stated elsewhere in the Torah. The ones on 1hr&24min would say Amen, and when the klalot, or the curses, or as some interpreted as punishment, both are incorrect, because the word for punishment is onesh. There is a Hebrew word for it. Onesh, that is the word for punishment. Klala is a curse. You place a curse on something. Everyone understands the result of the curse is what? Some form of negativity. Or some might refer to as punishment. In other words, if this individual who had received the curse will then ultimately experience, and this is again, two separate and distinct events. What is chas v'sholom when the curse is placed upon the individual, and the other. And in fact, how many people would be concerned about the curse if the curse did not ultimately manifest itself, let's say, in some form of chaos? Who would be concerned about the curse? Is the curse that which we fear? Or is it the result of the curse that we feel? So it's not the curse itself that has, so we believe is what we have to fear. It's rather the inevitable result of chaos that will result from this curse. But according to the Torah, no. The curse is chaos. Once you're on the track of, or on the train of Eitz Hadat, then it's not we're looking now. This is chaos. Living in that world is the world of chaos. So it's not some event that we're looking towards in the future as creating chaos in our lives. You're already on the track of chaos. You're living in the world of chaos. The world of chaos comes as it comes. You're on the local, you're going to stop along the way. If you're on the express, you're going to bypass all of this chaos that is there. As long as the world of chaos exists, the Eitz Hadat, or the skin, or the body, the physical body that encloses our souls exist, then we will always recognize that there is a world of chaos out there. There's a world of chaos. Living in that world of chaos, it's running that track and all that this track contains. That need not be stated. The world of chaos is for those who travel the world of chaos. If we can remove ourselves from this world of chaos, when I say remove, meaning taking another track, not being indifferent, not being insensitive to the fact that the world of chaos is around us. And the reason I say that, because it's quite appropriate why the mitzvah of tzedakah, is mentioned in this week's Parsha. What is the mitzvah of tzedakah? To give charity, to give a homeless person something. Well, why can't we just, in our consciousness, say, look, for whatever reason, this man chose to be on the track of chaos. It's meant to be. Why? Maybe if I give him tzedakah, and I've heard this mentioned, if I give him tzedakah, I may be taking away his tikkun process. No? After all, if he's supposed to go through a period now of starvation, and if I were to offer him food, then who knows? I may be interfering with his tikkun process. After all, he's chosen to go and be on the track of Eitz Hadat. Whether he's chosen, or whether this is his incarnated result of a prior lifetime, whatever the reasons are, what right do I have to interfere with the process that this individual chose consciously? Although now, maybe that poor individual would prefer living the life of luxury, but for whatever reason, he can't seem to fall into that track. And along comes, the Torah says, that individual, share with him. Like almost remove him from from his misery, from his homelessness, from his hunger. And when the Ari explains the mitzvah, tzedakah, he doesn't even discuss giving tzedakah, because we know that tzedakah, true tzedakah, is tatzil mimavet. You've heard this in the lectures. True tzedakah, true charity, True, true charity is something that we rarely accomplish in a lifetime. What is true tzedakah? So the Talmud gives the example of, at the time of the destruction of the first temple, just prior to the destruction of the first temple, Jeremiah pleaded to God that he reveal a poor man, whatever that, and there are qualifications as to what and how we determine as to who is a poor man. But assuming this person fits the category, he was pleading with God that he make this person appear. Because if that poor person would appear, that the act of giving to charity to this person could have staved off, could have prevented the destruction of the Holy Temple. And unfortunately, that one singular man did not appear. Therefore, when we assume that tzedakah, as it says in Proverbs, tzedakah tatzil mimavet, that charity will save one from death. Well, that's why people near death will give charity in the hope that maybe death will not affect them. Death will not be part of their landscape. And that's why people, in times of need, will give tzedakah. And this is called tzedakah. And this is the idea that tzedakah can save you from death. Well, the deeper meaning of tzedakah that saves one from death is, as we have just learned, it takes you off the track of chaos, death. And what is Tkiyat HaMeitim? What happened on Mount Sinai? We learned. Bila hamavet lanetzach. Death came to an end. Well, what do you mean death came to an end? How does the process of death come to an end? Well, because death is only part of that universe known as Eitz Hadat. When you're in the universe, you're in that vast universe of Eitz HaChaim, death doesn't exist there. Death doesn't exist. Death is a concept that the body withers away after the soul leaves it. And in Eitz HaChaim, recognizing the fact that there is a body, like Moses, when he disappeared from the sight of the Jews, his body did not disintegrate. As we know, righteous people, no matter how long they may be buried in that grave, assuming that's what we observed and that's what we saw, we think we saw the person being buried, and like I always try to give the example, and I hope you don't forget it, ever, and that is when we bury someone. When we bury someone, the question is, who's disappearing from whom? When this person is being buried in the coffin in the earth, I mean, insofar as where he's concerned, we've all disappeared, haven't we? So who's disappeared? The one in the grave has disappeared from us? Or maybe we, because he's not being covered, and now there's an obstruction between ourselves and him, he thinks maybe we died. It's all relative. Depends to whom you're addressing your question. He thinks, we've died, because we've disappeared. What does death mean? What does death mean? The disappearance of the individual. And so it says that a tzaddik, his world of chaos, the world of Eitz Hadat, the world of knowledge, does not disappear. It's there all the time for him to see and observe. But while he was sensitive, while he is to take notice and it's unavoidable that he take notice of the chaos around him. Nevertheless, the Torah wants to teach us there's another track. And therefore, when the Ari discusses tzedakah, he doesn't even discuss about giving of one person to one who doesn't have. All he discusses here are the kavanot, is the intelligence that goes into the action. Why? Why? Because tzedakah is not for the individual. When I give tzedakah to a homeless person, am I taking him out of his tikkun? Am I going, if I took him into my home and said, here is food forever, well, maybe I'm taking him out of his tikkun. But giving tzedakah involves giving food for that moment, food for a day, food for a year, but not food forever. Consequently, I have not removed this poor person from his tikkun process. And that is not even the purpose of tzedakah. As Jeremiah said, send me this real poor person. What did it mean? What did it mean? Says the Talmud and also the Zohar. A real poor person does not take notice of the gift. And I don't know if you've ever experienced people coming around, panhandlers, asking. There are some panhandlers, I should say most panhandlers, take a look. If you give him a penny, he may throw it back even in your face. Right? What can he do with a penny? Can't even buy a glass of water with a penny. And he notices the penny. The real poor individual that Jeremiah was talking about was the man whose palm of the hand appeared this way. And so he didn't even take notice of what was given or not, because he was only there for the expression of the individual to combine a thought intelligence of tzedakah that I'll shortly explain in brief, and included also the act of giving. But the act of receiving is not part of tzedakah. The act of receiving is not part. In other words, if this homeless person says, and you've given him something that he can now go ahead and buy food, is not tzedakah. Nothing to do with tzedakah. Because as we asked, and we raised the question, look, if that's his tikkun, how can I give him tzedakah? I might be interfering with the process of his tikkun. But the answer is, my giving tzedakah accomplishes two purposes. Number one, it makes me cognizant of a world out there called the world of chaos. I'm to recognize, the Torah wants me to recognize that chaos begins to fall into a world of euphoria, or those whom sometimes we lock up into mental institutions because they have gotten out of touch with reality. And there are people who do not conform. I mean, how does a mental institution determine who is mentally imbalanced or otherwise? How do you determine that? Well, we know that not everybody on the inside should be in the inside, and not everybody on the outside should be on the outside. How do you determine who's mentally imbalanced and who is not? The one who is not in touch with reality. Most of the times we ascribe that kind of attitude. He's out of touch with reality. Well, does this person ask for food? Does he ask for food? Do all mental patients or inmates, do they ask for food? Or all of them don't want to know about food? All of them are prepared to fast all day and all night. No, I see most of you are shaking your head. Of course not. But that's the only way we can determine if someone is mentally imbalanced or not. Once he recognizes reality, that he must eat, he's in the world of reality. Oh, he's out of touch of reality. What is he out of touch of reality? Because he's probably got a better idea than us. Many of us wake up 5 o'clock in the morning, go work until 12 o'clock at night, so we can support our families, never see them. And who says that at the end of the week there's going to be a salary that I can even take home with me? I may be losing money all week. And at the end of the week I can't even take a salary. And so I don't even have enough money to go and purchase the necessities for my family. And all I've done all week is never see my family. And this is called reality. That's being in touch with reality. What does this poor inmate of some mental institute says? Work? That's for my enemies. I've heard that expression. My enemies. Let them work. I should go work. Am I stupid? He's out of touch with reality, isn't he? No. Being out of touch with reality means that you are insensitive, unaware of the world of Eitz Hadat. That's a mentally imbalanced person. Why do I say he's mentally imbalanced? Because he's not taking into consideration the two worlds. The worlds of the soul, the world of the soul, the internal, the me, and then this other aspect that deals with the body. Where chaos exists. Is there chaos in the soul? Of course not. Does the soul die? Of course not. Does the soul need food? Not food as we understand it. It may need soul food. And therefore we make blessings so we can connect to the internal aspect of what do we mean by the internal aspect of food? Talking about the stuff that has no connection to the world of reality as we know it, to the world of physical sustenance. That is a mentally imbalanced person. When it says to give tzedakah, you have to be sensitive. You have to be aware that there is a world of chaos out there. This is the message of this week's reading. If you remove yourself, you go away on a vacation because you want to get away from it all. You want to get away from it. You want to forget. We know that the moment that this person comes back to his reality, the vacation is gone. Vacation is gone. As if he had never gone away on a vacation. Unfortunately, that happens too often with most of us. Why? Why does that take place? Because you cannot leave. As long as you have this physical body, you cannot leave or remove yourself from the world of reality. You may think, or as a mental institution, or someone in a mental institution believes that he's left, and if he truly has psyched himself into the belief that he has left the world of reality, and what do we mean by the world of reality? That he has left the physical domain of Eitz Hadat, that he is mentally imbalanced. That is correct. Because to be balanced, to maintain a balance in this universe, you have to have a consciousness that both exist. However, what Parshat Re'eh is telling us, that you have the opportunity to say, I know it's there. I know when that Masur is pressing down, and I know what generally the pressing on certain points should do, should evoke terrible pain, because that's the world of chaos. And at the same time, say, no, I don't belong there. Someone's leg is crushed, chas v'shalom, in an accident. It's crushed. Is there a crushing state in the world of Eitz HaChaim? And the answer is no. Therefore, says the Zohar, there are two bodies, and therefore, as I explained, and I bring that Zohar in Miracles, Mysteries, and Prayer, that the man with a phantom arm has that phantom arm because of two problems. The first problem of which is he looks around and he sees people have arms. And he looks at his body and sees the lack of an arm. That, by and within itself, is fine. Nothing wrong with that consciousness. That's a consciousness we must always have. Because what would happen if everyone was born without an arm? Would someone say, God, give me an arm? The only reason that we understand that the loss of an arm means loss is because of what? Because we are aware of the fact that everybody else has an arm. They have another ability to do things. But if we had to learn, if the body was constructed so that people didn't have arms, then that would be the norm. But that's not the world. The world, as we observe it, has a structure. Even in the world of chaos, there is a structure. That structure undergoes changes. That structure undergoes what we refer to as death. But we know, Bila Hamavet Lanesach. We know that this man who's lost an arm has the arm. That's why it's called a phantom arm. He has the arm. It exists. Then what doesn't exist? That other aspect. The result. That second part of us, the cloth, the thing that makes the atoms functional. Not the arm is not there. The atoms are there. What is an arm if not the structure of atoms? What is an arm if not a composite or a consolidation of atoms? That's gone. The wood is gone. The texture, the cloth is gone. Is the 99 and 9/10% of that element gone? No, it's there. It's there. And therefore, according to Avram Azulai, and hopefully we will see this miracle. The miracle of what? The reappearance of an arm. The restoration of an arm. It'll be a miracle. Yet the arm is there all along. Ask this individual who's lost an arm, do you have your arm? He'll say, absolutely. It itches. I feel pain. Everything that exists, that takes place normally in the arm of one that has an observable arm, these same events, these same feelings take place within the person who does not have an arm. You want to say something?
I wonder whether children that are born without limbs.
Usually, I do not permit a question. I thought you were going to contradict me. I was happy that maybe I was going to. You just want to ask a question, but all right, go ahead.
In your research on the book.
What's that?
In your research, in this book you just mentioned, you happen to come across any, not notice, but you come across any distinction between people who have lost limbs, absolutely more literally lost limbs in accidents or
Right. What about those children who are born without limbs?
children that were born, for example, if a little mind baby.
Yes, born without limbs. The answer is
Do you know what the
no such animal.
do people ever have a phantom limb birth?
They never lost the limb. Because this is what the Torah is telling us here. The world of Eitz Hadat. The world of Eitz Hadat runs parallel. Not even parallel, but one within the other. Unfortunately, the world of Eitz HaChaim is concealed for us. It's concealed not by this, like my hand is covered, and therefore it's concealed. Can you see it? Can you all tell what's in here? If you just walked in, well, if you could see the fingers clearly, I did this. What would you say I have there? What would you call it? What would you say is it? Oh, you can see it. But how can you see it? It's covered by cloth. It's only because we observe we observe this concealment as meaning it's not there. Is it not there? Now you know that it's there. If it was like this, and you just saw this and you didn't see me putting my hand in there, well, now you wouldn't know. Is it a cup that's supporting this? Is it a book? Is it something else? So in your own minds, now you've got doubts as to what's there. But in the world of creation, and certainly something as so important as the birth of a new person, of a new life, is there chaos? Only chaos in this baby born of a woman who took thalidomide? Of course not. There is no such thing as one operating without the other. When there's an operation, or when there is a consciousness of one without the other, that person is called imbalance. Does that mean that he cannot never be cured? No. Well, maybe one day they'll find the drug that can restore what? His consciousness as to the world of reality. But does he have the potential of becoming a normal citizen like the rest of us, despite the fact that he's now been confined in a mental institution? The answer is of course. Just maybe we haven't got the methodology by which we can have all of these people in mental institutions removed. But the ability to be normal exists within every single individual, even in a baby born without arms. Both realities are always present. The fact that I cannot see it does not mean that an absence of that reality exists because I don't observe it. So I'm blind, maybe. Maybe I can't see as well. And we know certainly the eye is not the feature. Therefore, when the Ari and the Zohar elsewhere discusses tzedakah, there was one other aspect that I wanted to mention. The Zohar is discussing tzedakah insofar as not the receiver is concerned, but rather the one who gives tzedakah. What should be his meditations? What's the difference? Why do we need meditation? The tzaddik represents something. The daled, time will not permit me to go into it, but it's given in the classes. The 4 letters, tzaddik, daled, kuf, hey, is a meditation that one must include in sharing. Why? Why? What's the difference? If the act of giving, the act of sharing is what the Torah prescribes, then what's the difference? What I think of at the time of my giving. Isn't the importance of sharing, giving, the essential feature of tzedakah? And the answer is absolutely not. Absolutely not. Tzedakah has nothing to do with the recipient. Because we ask, what about invading his tikkun process? If God wanted him to be poor, God, take care of him. Why are you asking me to take care of him? Only as I mentioned about Jeremiah, that individual that walks by and says, I need a handout, only gives me the opportunity so that I can now demonstrate what? The kavanot, the meditation of the Ari. What's that for? Because this is a secret code. And that's why tzedakah is mentioned only here. Trouble is we don't know what tzedakah means. It's to make me aware of a poor person, make me aware of chaos that exists in the world, so beautiful. And at the same time, provide for me, the opportunity to stay glued in the world of Eitz HaChayim, because unfortunately chaos becomes so overwhelming that we become reactive people. You see, someone doesn't have, someone without a leg going around with money. What is the normal reaction? And that's why I say I'm a cruel man. I say, well, that's his tikkun. God, you want to change it? Go ahead and do it. What do you want from me? Why do I have to react? Come on, are you heartless? Are you heartless? Well, how many of us would be heartless if we know in a prior incarnation And this guy was a general. This guy walking around now without legs. That we're all, placed in this consciousness that we must give this poor man who needs food, doesn't have legs. But in a prior lifetime, he was a general of the army, and every prisoner that came before him, what was his order to his soldiers? Take the feet off. What would you say now about this guy? Oh, come on, don't you have any feeling for him? Well, that guy, I remember what he did. Oh, now we don't remember what he did. But if we knew that's what he did, would there be one individual who'd want to support him or give him charity? Say, oh, thank God he's there. Therefore, the Ari, it sounds heartless and cruel, but the Torah is telling us that's not the idea. We have to recognize, you know why he's there? It's true. He's there in his position for what? Because of his tikkun process. Do I interfere? Now when I give him a handout? No. Because tomorrow, what is he going to have to do? Work for another handout. I have not interfered with his tikkun. The tikkun is for me, so that I can have an opportunity to recognize the world of chaos. That there are people out there without money, but I don't have to support those people without money. I don't have to support them. Well, that's a whole new twist. After all, the Torah talks about charity. What a noble thing it is to share with the unfortunate. According to the Torah, according to the Ari, he does not mention the unfortunate people. In fact, he's busy, and to get with the Zohar, well, now let's see, does he fit the category? What are you talking about? Man goes around asking for money. No, if he has a certain amount of money hidden in the mattress. So on another level, the man's got about $1 million hidden under his mattress, and he's going around. Have you ever seen rich people go around? Yeah, it's a sickness. That's the way we talk about this man that later we find out that he didn't have food in his home, and they find $1 million under his mattress, but he wouldn't go out to buy food. I don't want to go into the whole story, but is this giving charity? No. That's why Jeremiah asked for the category. Why? Because ultimately, whatever meditation is involved in the giving of charity is for me, not for the poor person. They do not discuss this poor individual that's come back destitute, or this individual has no legs and obviously cannot hold down a job maybe, and therefore is going and wheeling. If you ever see, I've seen these people on these boards, and that's the way they go with their hands trying to get around. Well, today they can go around, I guess, with a motorized wheelchair, just pressing the buttons. Well, I don't know how many people will want to support him. After all, if he can afford a motorized wheelchair, then he can't be destitute. Where to get the money to buy? All of these things will go through our minds. You can be rest assured. That's the way we think. More importantly, according to this Parshat Re'eh, is recognizing chaos. No, if any meditation takes you out of the world of chaos, you miss the point. You're not on that express train of Etz HaChaim. You've got to know that chaos exists, and at the same time know that you can take yourself out and put yourself on this track. But remember, watch the local. That's why this whole idea of tzedakah comes about. No, that's why there are poor people out there. Not so that we should share with this poor individual. His tikkun took care of that. What does that have to do with me? Tzedakah, therefore the Ari spends all of this ink on the meditation. What meditation for? What purpose? What purpose? So that I can be put back on the track of Etz HaChaim. Okay. Interesting.